This is Squawk Pod from CNBC. On today's episode, we're bringing you the best of Squawk in Paris for the 2024 Olympics. First, a conversation with Reddit co-founder, venture capitalist, and investor in women's sports. It's Alexis Ohanian.
The core phenomenon here probably came from a certain someone I'm married to, right? Serena Williams is the prototype for how you can show women's sports is and can be and should be on the same level as men's.
Why he's been invested in women's sports for years.
You look at those viewer numbers, even to this day, more Americans watch the US Open final for the women than the men.
Ohanian's newest venture in track, plus being a girl dad in the Olympic Village, and how social media is pushing athletes to new heights.
In the attention economy, we are fighting tooth and nail on social media to get someone to pay attention. And you look at follower counts and it tells you the story of why women athletes are so compelling.
Then how fans are using social media at the Olympics with Snap CEO Evan Spiegel. He's rolled out AR features in the official Olympics app.
It's a really fun fan experience. You can think of it as the modern version of the Kiss Cam.
And what he envisions for the 2028 Olympics fan experience.
What we've seen at Snapchat is, in fact, people would rather be present in the real world. And we think that means that people want to see the world through a lens rather than a screen.
I'm CNBC producer Cameron Costa, podcasting from New York. And Squawk Pod from the 2024 Olympics begins right after this. You're listening to Squawk Pod with Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Here's Becky.
Now for a look at investing in women's sports, the Paris Games, and much more, we've got Alexis Ohanian. He's venture capitalist, co-founder, and former executive chairman of Reddit. He's, of course, also the founder of 776. And Alexis, we got to back this up. Instead of jumping right in with what your newest news is in track and field, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I really want to back this up because I think you're a visionary when it comes to seeing the absolute power and strength of women's sports. You've been an advocate for a very long time. You've been putting money behind those bets for a very long time, and now the rest of the world is starting to catch up with you. Why don't we talk about what you saw and how? Like, I guess the obvious question is, how did you know women's sports was going to be big?
Well, look, 2019, I just rage tweeted because the Women's World Cup was coming on deck, and it made no sense to me that a team could be worth only a few $1 million when this sport was garnering international attention every 4 years. How could you keep the momentum going? The answer, was my initial investment in Angel City, which obviously most recently now has announced a large round of funding from Bob and Willow.
Bob Iger and Willow Bay.
Yes, which we're obviously excited about. But the core phenomenon here probably came from a certain someone I'm married to, right? Serena Williams is the prototype for how you can show women's sports is and can be and should be on the same level as men's, because you look at those viewer numbers, even to this day, more Americans watch the US Open final for the women than the men, and that's the legacy of the Williams sisters, Billie Jean King, and everyone else. And so it takes investment, it takes thinking about it from first principles, not treating it just like the men's version of the sport, but really understanding why do people love these athletes, how to support them, and how to build.
But I think one of the huge parts of this is you put your entrepreneurial cap on and you look at things differently. I think part of it has to be the valuation picture because men's sports have been so richly valued.
Yes.
You're looking at things that are undervalued at that point, and then you shake things up a bit. You make it more interesting, more exciting. You change things. We can talk about what you're doing in track. Maybe that's a good way of kind of going at it.
For sure. Well, look, it cost $1 million to buy a franchise, the NWSL, in 2019. Most recently, a team paid $53 million. So you can see that increase over just the last 4 years. Part of the understanding was when folks fill an arena and we get 22,000 max capacity regularly for Angel City, they're doing it with a different why in women's sports. They want to see greatness, they want to see excellence, but it's tied into a cultural trend that you'll more likely see online than you will through traditional media. No offense. And that was our thinking with women's track. I saw the world pretty much the same way in 19, where here is this sport we're all going to be paying so much attention to for these Olympics. What are they doing the rest of the time? And what I came to find out was, there was a huge opportunity to invest. There was a huge opportunity to create the largest prize in the history of track, over $500,000, and create something that would be a cultural event as much as it was sporting.
Can I ask a question? Why did you think the inflection point was now? And the reason I ask that is, you go back in time when the WNBA began, and we would talk a lot about how we were at this inflection point and this, something was about to happen. And then, in truth, it didn't happen. And so what is it about now that has shifted this whole dynamic?
Well, the Reddit guy is going to tell you it's social media. And I was calling this shot 3 or 4 years ago. Check the tweets. It was obvious even during that weight room scandal at the NCAA tournament when the women were given this like a pittance in support versus the men. They couldn't even say Final Four back then. The women on social media, the individual accounts, had far more followers than the top men in college basketball. That was obvious 3 or 4 years ago. That is where attention is. And then obviously you get superstars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese to really level up the attention. But in the attention economy, we are fighting tooth and nail on social media to get someone to pay attention. And you look at follower counts and it tells you the story of why women athletes are so compelling.
I think that's a huge part of it, though. You're very smart about finding superstars, building characters that people want to follow and go along with. And you use business principles in this, which is the incentive structure. You pay everybody who's going to show up at this track meet.
Yes, and nothing about this is charity, nor should it be charity. And that, I think, was one of the things, maybe the mindset has held back women's sports in the past. This is about excellence, about celebrating it. Not only is it about record-breaking prize, but it's also all of the revenue we generate from Athlos New York, 10% of it will get pooled and distributed evenly to all 36 of the women who show up. We're finding ways to align incentives, and this is just step one, but we wanted to do something that reminded people even after the Olympics.
$60,000 for the first place.
Yes,
was it
that's
50
right.
per second? I mean, that's some big money.
Well, keep in mind, the top prize at the end of a normal professional season in this sport is $30,000. So I wasn't doing anything terribly clever, just doubling the top prize in the sport.
When you think about the audience for women's sports broadly, how much does it need to come from women? How much do you think it needs to come from men? This has been a big topic of conversation because you look at, the stands at an NFL game, I think it's about 70-30. Basketball, I think, is actually potentially even more across the country. This is in the U.S., this is. So how much of this, when you look at who's going to be sitting in the stands for a women's game, how much of it is more women in those stands and how much of it is more men in those stands?
One of the things that'll surprise you potentially is even in Angel City, we see actually a pretty great representation, not only of men and women, sort of pretty close to 50-50 actually, but also spread across demographics, spread across income levels, and it's really a reflection of Los Angeles. And I think women's sports broadly, yes, there is an entry point for women who are finding more and more interest in sports broadly because more and more content is actually being created around it. But I also think there are plenty of men, and I know the girl dad thing comes up often with me. Obviously, I have 2 daughters, but there are plenty of men who love sports who are now finding ways to tune in because they weren't accessible before and finding something that they really love. And they're getting to spend time with their kids, boys and girls, and they're realizing I love sports for the stories, for the excellence, for the athleticism, and the women's game has it too. And so I think you'll see more and more folks showing up in these stands, whether it's for Athlos or for other events, that actually represent the whole population, men and women and children.
How much of it is because of the streaming aspect of things right now, and how much money is there? There's a real demand for content and instantaneous with sports.
I think what that social media wave has shown is that folks have very short attention spans, and you have to compete with it no matter who you are. And so the streamers are realizing, okay, the appointment television that is left, it's sports. You have to must see it, and this is an opportunity for the women's game to get revalued, and the WNBA's recent media deal is a great example of that.
Alexis, you revealed recently that you tested positive for Lyme's disease. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank God, I got the antibiotics in me early, so I'm a trooper. I think I got a couple days left, but we're good. But I tweet probably a little too much. But one of the things I really want to share, especially with other guys, if you're like me, you don't spend much time thinking about your health. Then you get a couple kids and you start realizing, hey, I got to make some serious changes. I got to get real about it. Did a whole battery of blood work and thankfully got caught. So we're good.
What's been your favorite part of the Olympics so far?
Actually just being able to see Olympia, walking around the Olympic Village, trading pins, taking all of Miles's pins. Sorry,
Miles Chamley Watson. We were with him yesterday, the fencer, and he said your daughter stole all his pins.
Look, she's an ambitious young lady, and I'm there to support it. But to see her running around, to really feel like she gets to experience this thing I feel privileged to be there. I'm definitely not an Olympian. She's got the name and obviously the lineage, but it's awesome to see.
How much tennis you watch?
If my wife's not in it, I'm not paying too much attention to it when there's really good competition. Obviously cheering on Coco. We love us some Coco. But I don't know. We saw swimming last night, Wahoo Wah. and I'm looking forward to gymnastics tomorrow, but we'll see. I gotta work here too, so I'm balancing it all out.
Well, Alexis, thank you for working with us. We appreciate it, and
My
we'll see you a
pleasure.
little later.
And I want to make sure to personally invite you all to Athlos. We also not only have the fastest
September
women,
in
September
New York City?
26th
Yeah.
in New York, not only the fastest woman in the world, largest prize, but also Meg the Stallion is performing. So if the Super Bowl got Rihanna, the fastest women deserve Meg. I know you're
I'll
a
be
Meg
there.
the Stallion fan, Joe.
I'll be there.
I
know it.
I knew
like
it.
my kids are.
No, I'll come
I'm
because
serious. That's a genuine
no,
invite.
my daughter is an All-American in,
Heck yes.
in the 800 and the 1500.
All
So
right.
we'll come.
All right.
We'll
She'll
come.
be running in it one day too.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. Thanks a lot.
Leaning a little right, isn't she? Meg, the Stallion. I think she leans a little right.
I mean,
doesn't she?
I
think she is.
As long
yeah.
as she shows up and brings that hot girl energy.
I thought that's why you said
That's
that
what we
too.
want.
No,
No,
why you
I
said
figured
that.
you were a fan. Yeah.
I am. She leans a little. Yeah.
Okay.
Cheese will be next.
Up next on Squawk Pod, another dad in social media and tech. Snap CEO Evan Spiegel and his approach to his own kids and his platform.
Are they on Snap? Are they allowed to
The
be?
13-year-old is allowed to be on Snapchat now, but we have Family Center, which is a way that you can link your 13-year-old's account with your account, and you can see, the friends that they're talking to.
Plus, the augmented reality that Snap has rolled out at the Olympics.
We've been able to bring our augmented reality tools outside of the Snapchat application into the Olympics app, the official Olympics app, and into the stadium.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Squawk Pod from CNBC with Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Up and Andrew, Q.
Coco Gauff eliminated in women's tennis singles by Croatia's Dana Vekic in straight sets. And we should mention there was a controversial call that's making waves literally as we speak by a chair umpire that had Coco protesting unsuccessfully, and it got heated to the tournament supervisor. Coco's medal hopes still alive in the doubles competition. But I imagine as people look at video of these Olympic Games today, shots from what happened at this tennis match are going to be the thing that folks are going to be talking about. You know what went viral yesterday with that unbelievable shot?
Surfer.
Brazilian surfer Gabriel Medina posting the highest single wave score in Olympic history and captured him in the air, and it has gone viral. There's no plastic anything under him. This literally is the photo.
No Photoshop,
AI didn't
no
do it, no
AI.
Photoshop, no nothing. The surfing competition is happening in Tahiti now. Of course, that is 10,000 miles away from Paris, but this has gone viral, and I believe Coco is about to go viral. The fight that she just had with
We should.
the umpires. She's had a whole bunch of fights with umpires, including, by the way, just in the French Open a month ago. And then, if you remember, in Dubai back in February, she got into a tangle with the umpire there. So it's going to be interesting. She's been standing up for herself. Oftentimes, the umpire has actually been wrong in terms of some of the calls, and in this case, she feels she was wronged in this call.
I wonder, WEX, Worldwide Exchange, has the word of the day. Maybe we should do the photo of the day.
Photo of the day. Well, that'll be the photo, and maybe we'll get Coco with the umpire, and that'll be our next photo. And one of the reasons we wanted to mention all of this virality is because so much of this stuff is showing up on social media, and Snapchat is here in Paris, powering augmented reality experiences at the Olympics. For the first time ever, Snapchat cameras are now inside Olympic venues. I sat down with Snap CEO Evan Spiegel in an exclusive interview here in Paris, and I asked him how all this new technology, it's like the new Kiss Cam, works here in these stadiums.
One of the things that's been really exciting this year is that we've been able to bring our augmented reality tools outside of the Snapchat application into the Olympics app, the official Olympics app, and into the stadium, which is so fun for the fan experience.
Okay, so for those people who are uninitiated and don't know what we're talking about, when you're in the stadium, you're going to see what?
You're going to see all the Snapchat AR effects built just for the Olympics in 2024 overlaid on the audience. And so it's a really fun fan experience. You can think of it as the modern version of the Kiss Cam.
So you started doing this in the U.S. first?
We did. It first launched at SoFi Stadium back, I think, in 2022. And since then, we just supported the Super Bowl, and we're delighted to bring it to a ton of stadiums, venues all around Paris for 2024.
Is there a certain sport that you are looking forward to using the lenses on?
Well, it's more like on the audience, I guess.
No, I know it's on the audience, but you can also do it on the players if you want to.
We had not thought of that, but I think we should definitely consider it.
You don't do it on the players yourself?
We haven't typically done it on the players. It's been more of like a fan engagement.
I know that's in the arena, but don't you think that people are using it that way?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, we should absolutely do it.
Let me ask you just about, actually, we keep hearing sirens and safety and security issues, and how Snap is playing into that or not in terms of both privacy issues and whatnot, especially with kids these days.
Yeah, absolutely. That's top of mind for us, and it's actually critical to the way that we've built our service from the beginning. We've seen that privacy is integral to security. So things like having a private friends list, for example, or only allowing people to communicate with you if you've previously agreed to be friends. Those are the sorts of things that create a safe Snapchat experience that's really oriented around friends and family.
How do you think Snap these days compares to the other social media platforms? And do you think of yourself as social media?
I think we offer social connection without social comparison. And that's one of the reasons why people really love Snapchat. I think people have always felt pressure to be pretty imperfect on social media, to only share that 1% of their life that really feels special and worth sharing. But the other 99% is frankly more important many times, especially in our close friendships and relationships where, the ups and downs of everyday life and sharing those moments is what bring us closer together.
Okay, generational question. Do you see the young generation, as they're getting older, continuing to use Snap? Are you seeing older people? I'm, by the way, finding myself using Snap more. Why? Because I have 13-year-old boys who use Snap. And if you want them to respond to you more quickly than a text message, they will do it on Snap. How does that work in terms of then trying to keep these generations engaged?
Yeah, the Snapchat community has really grown with Snapchat. So now more than 80% of Snapchatters are above the age of 18. So we really have seen the Snapchat community grow, and it is the perfect place for a family group chat.
Okay, but how do you do it at home?
How do we do it at home?
Yeah, how old are your kids?
We have 13, 6, 4, and 5 months.
Okay.
So quite a range, all boys. It's utter chaos.
And are they on Snap? Are they allowed to be?
The 13-year-old is allowed to be on Snapchat now, but we have Family Center, which is a way that you can link your 13-year-old's account with your account, and you can see, the friends that they're talking to and their privacy settings and things like that.
Screen time, what's the house rule?
I think everything in moderation. I think the challenge, with screen time is really when screens start taking away from other important aspects of your life, whether that's, playing sports or hanging out with friends or, of course, homework. So trying to find the right balance of using screens to connect with people when we're apart, while at the same time making sure we have room in our lives to do all the other things that are really important.
Do you let the kids use TikTok and/or YouTube?
TikTok is not allowed in our household, and YouTube...
For competitive reasons or national security purposes?
Maybe a mixture of both.
And what about YouTube?
YouTube is allowed, of course.
Is allowed. On TikTok, do you actually have a view on the national security piece of this whole situation?
I think what's interesting to see is the way that the government has sort of worked to thread the issue. Obviously, it's important that TikTok is in the United States for competitive reasons. It helps, to create a more dynamic, tech marketplace. But at the same time, I think through this divestment approach, they've tried to make sure that, that foreign governments can't influence, our politics, for example, or spread misinformation. So I think they're trying to thread the needle by making sure the service can continue to benefit Americans, but at the same time mitigating some of those concerns.
I mean, when you guys sit around on a Monday morning meeting, are you planning that there is no TikTok in the future? Are you planning that TikTok exists as it does today, nothing happens? Or are you planning on some new version of TikTok owned by and controlled by an American company in the future?
What we're planning on is continuing to grow our community by serving them with the best possible Snapchat experience. At the core of Snapchat is communication with friends and family. Of course, we have a content platform that can be competitive, with video services like TikTok.
But you don't have a take on which of the various things are going to happen?
It's really hard to say right now. I think we'll all have a lot more clarity in the fall as the legal process evolves. But right now, it's too hard to say.
We do have an election coming up. What are you doing around either misinformation on the platform around the election, or just how do you feel about people using the platform for news around the election?
One of the things that's always been really important to us is making sure that people using Snapchat have access to really high quality news. That's why we partner with media organizations
like NBC,
to provide really high quality content, and we revenue share with those partners to make sure that they can continue to reinvest in their newsroom and continue to bring high quality news to our community. And that's especially important for young people because a lot of news today is increasingly behind a paywall, which makes it really, really hard for young people to access high quality information, especially when social media is inundated with misinformation. creation. So we built our platform differently. We have a closed and moderated content platform. We work very closely with our publisher partners to bring high quality news into the platform. And we think all of that supports self-expression, which is so fundamental to democracy.
AI is obviously a huge issue. Is there any real clever ways that people are using AI on Snap yet?
One of the things that we've been most excited about is the way that our generative AI tools have been adopted by Lens developers. So generative AI is powering the way that people use Lens Studio today. They can generate new 3D assets on the fly.
Right.
They're even using generative AI to build lenses themselves. And all of that is really exciting because it lowers the barrier to creativity and creation.
Is it changing what you're doing with engineers?
I'd say engineers are definitely seeing the benefits of being able to use tools like Copilot to improve the velocity of their programming. I think that's really exciting. If you think about how much software there is in the world, if it just gets 5 or 10% easier to build software, that's a huge productivity improvement globally.
Okay, so we're here in 2024 in Paris. The next Summer Games are going to be in your hometown of Los Angeles. How is it going to be different? And how is Snap going to be involved in it?
Yeah, we're so excited about the games coming to Los Angeles. In fact, in many ways, I'm here to learn and see, all the incredible work that went into making Paris 2024 possible. I know Los Angeles Mayor Bass is out, for the opening ceremony to see the Olympics in all their glory. I think what LA is going to bring to the table is a lot of creativity. The city is very diverse. It's over 10 million people, and in many ways, it's almost a collection of little cities. And the way that I believe the organizers are thinking about the games are leveraging existing infrastructure in Los Angeles, spread throughout the city to bring the games to life.
Will we all just be still using a phone in 2028?
I don't think so. I think, if you look at the evolution of screens, even starting with our televisions, for example, that were in the living room, evolving to, a screen on your desk, to maybe a laptop, to today holding a screen in your hand. I think there's this sort of dystopian view that we're all going to put screens on our faces and see the world through a screen that way. And what we've seen at Snapchat is, in fact, people would rather be present in the real world. And we think that means that people want to see the world through a lens rather than a screen. So I kind of think we're at the end of screens and the beginning of lenses, which will allow people to experience computing. Exactly. Glasses will allow people to experience computing in totally new ways.
Guys, that is the difference. You talk about the gram, Instagram.
I'd agree.
On the gram, you only show
Perfection,
or as close to perfection as you can get.
Yeah.
On Snap, you just send whatever.
I think it's absolutely right. And it has less of a negative impact on teenagers as a result, I think, probably.
The 1924 thing has been done. Woody Allen, Midnight in Paris.
Yes.
Well, nope, goes, but Hemingway is there, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Gertrude Stein is there.
On your phone.
I know, Picasso's there, and you know where they were all eating. This is what I'm getting to back then.
Where we were eating.
Last night.
On our date. On our man date.
We'll always have Paris.
We'll always have Paris. Evan, in his old age, has become a politician. I also asked him about TikTok, and he was very good about,
Not slamming them?
demurring on an answer. So,
Probably smart, but telling that his 13-year-old is only allowed partial.
by the way, most tech executives don't let their
kids
families
on.
near the phone.
Right.
What does that tell you?
All our guests are becoming experts at demurring, if you've noticed lately. I guess they know that they're going to be asked at this point, right?
Are you learning about the
'Cause they
demurring? You're not
watch the
learning
show?
about the demurring.
Yeah, I don't demur.
I don't demur either.
No, that's like part of the good thing and part of the bad thing, right?
That does it for this episode of Squawk Pod. Don't miss the rest of our Squawk Pod Olympics coverage right here in your podcast feed. Just make sure you follow us wherever you're listening so you can catch it all. Squawk Box is hosted in Paris or otherwise by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Weekday mornings on CNBC starting at 6 a.m. Eastern. A bientôt.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.